my internet. Hello! Welcome to 20 at 10, the edition where I'm not on Instagram Live, but I am still live pretty much everywhere else. We're on YouTube tonight, Twitch, and Facebook on the Natalie Price music pages. And I have a very special guest tonight named Joe Shaw. Joe is a podcaster based in the Dallas area. He hosts two podcasts, the Detox Podcast, a cultural and conversation podcast, and After the Encore, a long-form career retrospective show exploring what's behind the music of your favorite artists. Detox was listed as one of the top 9 podcasts in Dallas that you need to listen to by the Dallas Observer. And After the Encore was nominated by podcastawards.com as a 2020 Music Podcast of the Year. My favorite season of After the Encore so far has been the boy band season. Joe interviewed guys from NSYNC, Plus One, O-Town, and Youth Asylum. The first season of After the Encore featured Texas artists, including me and Jamie Harris, whom you might know if you are tuning in from Austin or Nashville. Joe is a storyteller, and he's working towards change and changing people's societal built-in learned behaviors through podcasting. Please welcome Joe Shaw.
Woo! I'm here.
Joe,
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing superbly. I'm super excited to be here and to repay the favor of being on your show since you were so gracious with your time to come on my show just a year and a half ago. And I feel like every time we talk, it feels like just yesterday because I've known you practically my whole life. So I'm super excited that our paths have crossed again in this really creative endeavor.
You know, I was thinking about it today or yesterday. You really are one of the few people in my life outside of my family who I think I have known you my entire life.
Yes.
Like, we
I
grew
was
up in the
thinking
same
the same
church, which means we were
thing.
probably in the same nursery.
Yeah.
And I think my first memories of you, though, were in like second or third grade, maybe. We
Yeah,
were
that sounds
great
about right.
friends the whole time, but
Right.
I've known
Right.
of you my entire life, so it's pretty funny.
Right.
Yeah. Was it you, speaking of, this is random, not quite one of my actual questions. Were you,
Sure.
I think it might have been me versus Joe in
Trying to swap him out herself so often. So that's
Gotcha.
just a nightmare I have, is waking up in one day like having to do that. So thanks.
It
I won't have
I
nightmares
will
about that.
say that it's just like a little ball on a post, and
Uh-huh.
the shape was like a teardrop shape, so it was really easy to like slip into the lobe, and it was a
Oh,
very tiny
okay.
earring. So whenever I went another time to get them pierced, I got a larger ball on a
Okay.
stud to like,
That's good.
because I was frightened that it would happen again, and I was 18.
We're all
Anyways,
flowers and ladybugs and heart earrings, so those are
oh
big
my
enough that we
gosh.
should be okay.
Oh my gosh. Well, yes, you shouldn't have any issues with that.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight and hanging out. Also hanging out with me yesterday for a really long dress rehearsal and just basically shooting the
Right.
breeze to
Right.
promote this tonight.
I
Everybody,
did
where are
my hair
you?
tonight, so
Your
there we
hair is
go.
done. You gelled it up. Looks
Yes.
great.
Right.
I see Joanna's here and Firestorm Live. Is that David? Thanks for tuning in. Where is
Wow.
everyone else tuning in from? Go ahead and drop a comment. I can see all those comments and we'll be able to interact. If you have a question you want to pipe in, or like,
Yeah.
early childhood church memory you want to, contribute to the conversation, just go for it. Drop it in there.
Right.
Well, Joe and I reconnected summer of 2019, when he invited me on his show After the Encore podcast. And that was a really interesting and fun interview. And I remember probably the most fun part for me was before he even started interviewing me, I was like, okay, so why are you doing this? Like, why are you? And he started to say some really profound stuff. And I'm like, okay, so please turn your microphone on. Start recording now. Why are you not recording? Please record now. And I made you record yourself.
Yep.
And it was the most fun. And actually, that's kind of maybe why I'm doing this show, is because I realized I love asking people questions and not necessarily putting them on the spot, but I love asking people questions and hearing parts of their stories. And so That was really fun to put you on the spot when you thought you were interviewing me.
It was
Um,
it was crazy. I tell people all the time. I said, usually I'm very like I'm still professional in our interview, but I'm usually very polished and professional, and I think it threw me off because I've known you so long. So I had different guards up and different guards down, and then you just started talking, and I felt like I just was transported back in time and was a lot more vulnerable, and it was so good. And I remember texting you because I was like, "What am I going to do? This is like 27 minutes of me babbling on," and you're like, "You're going to do something. I have no idea, but you'll do something with it." And then I remember texting you in the middle of the night, like, I hate you because I've got this profound stuff and I don't know what to do with it. And then you just texted back, like, you're welcome. Like, I'm like, oh, great, thanks. And so I made like a little outro monologue thing for the volume, which is just me like spilling my whole like guts and story about why I'm doing what I'm doing. I love it and it's fantastic. And I always redirect people back to that because I say Natalie Price is a fantastic interviewer. So
well,
love it.
thanks. I came in with like zero questions except I want to know why he's doing this. Like what like he invited me to
Right.
do this thing, but I don't understand. Like he's starting it. Everyone's podcasting these days, so it's like
Hmm.
what do you have that you're doing that's different and why? And
Right.
well, kind of along those lines, I wanted to know. So you, I also have known you as like a theater guy, and
Hmm.
growing up, at least like in high school, and
Right.
so and you kind of hinted about it last night when we were dress rehearsaling here on live.
Right.
Um,
Right.
how did you transition from theater? How did you end up in podcasting? Like,
Sure.
I know like you did college and you've got a job and you have a family now, and
Mhm.
so like what how have you landed in podcasting and found that so fulfilling? Like, what was your transition journey like?
Sure. So that's a really great question. And what's interesting about the last, I would say, probably 4 years since I've been doing podcasting has been my journey of self discovery of like, how did I get here? And honestly, it didn't click for me until about maybe 2 years or so ago. I do podcasts. I try and meet up with people in person when, like pre COVID. And so I utilized an acquaintance's space where they have an actual art studio. And so I asked if I could use the space to record an interview, and he said, sure. Then when I got done, I thanked him, and he said, no worries. I didn't have anything scheduled for the night. And the whole reason I have this space is for people to create art. And I love that art was being created even when we didn't have like a class or an exhibition. And that was the first time I realized this is an art form. And it really connected the dots to me that I'm a storyteller naturally. And I love being able to show and highlight other people's stories and unique perspectives. Because I feel like the more unique stories that we hear, which is different from what ours is, the better we can become as a well-rounded individual, and we can then try to affect change for the world. So thinking
It's
about
a
that,
lofty goal.
right? Well, it starts one conversation at a time, right?
Right.
And so getting to try and figure out how does that manifest for me, and like I've got the storyteller aspect, I'm drawn to artistic stuff, how do those correlate? And I realized I love telling other people's stories, so that
Mm.
manifested a bit in theater. I loved acting on stage for a period of time, but then when the show is done, the show is done, and unless you get like a DVD of it, which a DVD of a live show is rarely good, in my opinion. And so
Fair. I mean,
especially like a high school show.
we're kind of doing the same thing right now. This is the DVD
True.
version of what would normally be an in-person
Right, right, exactly. And
conversation.
so right, and so knowing that, like, it has a shelf life of the longevity of, a live performance of a theater production, I went, "Well, this isn't quite right. This is close to what I wanna do and how I wanna tell stories, but this isn't quite it." And then when I started podcasting, which originally started out doing detox, I wanted to do a parenting resource, for new dads because that's what I was looking for. And then it's grown into this culture and conversation podcast where I do have people of different perspectives in my own on the show to tell their story or to talk about what's passionate to them so we can all grow as a society. And through that course, I realized this is what I enjoy doing. I like podcasting because I feel it accurately replicates and fosters an environment. It fosters an environment that replicates the way people really talk, and it's an intimate setting where people can kind of let their guard down and they don't feel like they've got an audience around them or they have to like kind of have this guard up. They can kind of be a little bit more vulnerable, and you get to capture that and then put it out into the world. And then it's there, like, yeah, it's digital and you got to like do all these things, but ideally it's there forever so people can pick it up off the shelf, the virtual shelf, and listen to it and then be moved to change in action in 2030 as much as in 2020 when I'm recording it. And that's what I love about podcasting. And I feel like there's a greater opportunity to affect more change
Okay.
than I felt I was doing in theater. And
Okay.
so that's where I kind of like navigated the journey.
Well, quick question. Well, not a question, but
Mhm.
Joanna asked a question
Mm,
about what your podcast is about. The Detox podcast he was just talking about broadly as a culture and conversation podcast, your first
correct.
podcast. And then the one
Yes.
that I know him for, Joanna, is After the Encore, which is a long form retrospective, like career
Right.
of the artist that he's interviewing, which is super
Right.
cool.
Yeah, After the Encore is music, and it's a seasonal based podcast, so it comes out maybe approximately every 4 to 6 months. I've got a new season, and then Detox is a weekly podcast, so every Monday you'll get a new episode.
Awesome. Let's see here. I asked everyone where they're joining from. David says from Austin. Joanna and Sean are also joining us from Austin. Hey guys.
Nice.
Let's see. Well, this is kind of what I mean. You've talked about it a little bit, like what your goal is to like change people's actions through these interviews that you're doing,
Mm.
through the conversations you're having. So maybe this is the same question or it's the same answer, but what is one thing that you hope to accomplish through these podcasts and conversations before you die? Like if you died, but
Ooh.
you knew you accomplished this one thing, maybe what is one of those things?
I love this question because I am probably morbidly obsessed with the idea of like what is my legacy, and I think more so this year because who knows what's going on in the year, right? But I've created like detailed digital files and backups of every single podcast I've done, whether I've done it myself or guested on an episode, and I've broken it down. I've talked to my wife about like where the files are, how to access them, because to me, I really want my kids to be able to access my body of work when I'm gone. And so that's something that I've already been kind of thinking about and really chewing over for a while. But as far as what I want to accomplish, when I set out to do podcasting, I set this goal where I said if I can help one person, just one person, I've done my job. And that's grown a bit over time. But what I really think about are the small wins where I've had when it was the early days and there was parenting advice, some new dads reaching out saying, this was a great resource. I felt like I was a part of a community, that I'm not alone. This really gave me something to like think about. And hearing y'all's mistakes was super helpful for me. And so like that was cool. And then more recently, I think about the fact that one of my dear friends, Nick North, he is a transgender dad of 5 kids and he birthed 4 of his 5 kids. Prior to transitioning. And so I got a chance to meet him at a parenting conference last year, and I didn't know he was transgender when I first asked to interview him. I just thought he was super cool, and I really wanted to record a lot of interviews on site. So during my research before we recorded, I realized he was a transgender man, and so we talked about it. And he shared his story about how everybody has these societal built-in learned behaviors about people to like, people to dislike, and that the reason that we're taught this is most of the time we don't have any contact with someone that is part of this other group, and therefore it's easy to like form myths about people and start putting like false assumptions on them, and then it just grows over time. And he said by having the ability to sit down, break bread, have conversation, and share perspectives and stories, then we can start turning the wheel. And then I had a family member reach out and said that they listened to that episode and they would never have listened to a transgender individual story before, but because it was on my show and they know me and they trust me, they listened, and their perception on both transgender individuals as well as the entire LGBTQ plus community was radically changed. And they said that they had a lot of soul searching to do after that. And then fast forward, they've changed a lot of decisions they've made in their day-to-day life as a direct result of hearing these stories. And they still have like slip ups and they still are working through it, and we're all learning and growing together. I still have my slip ups and I'm still learning and growing. But to have that like really uh, detailed message about where they were before they listened, their perspective as they were listening, what they walked away with, and then to see the like end result that's currently going on, that makes me feel that I've really affected change in one person's life, and that means the world to me. So that keeps me going to try and create more content for people to give them something to think about and chew over, someone else, like the thought of someone else's perspective on any particular topic. Because at the end of the day, I feel like you can debate political issues, you can debate a lot of stuff, but you can't debate someone's story. Like someone's story is their story. The only thing we can do is listen and absorb it and really understand, like, this is the world as it happened to them. What can I learn about my own self reflected in them?
Right. Yeah. Joanna said, wow, that's great.
Oh, thanks.
Also, Donna is joining us from Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, nice. Woo.
Very cool. Yeah, that's really awesome that that you had specific examples of people reaching out to you and affirming what you're doing. That's always
Right.
amazing to hear. For any person doing any work, to know that the work that you believe in and you're putting effort into is making a difference to someone else. And I think that's kind of what we all want,
Yeah.
at a
Right.
kind of base level. I know, and then something you said about kind of like being in different groups, having an us and them mentality, and like writing these
Hmm.
myths about other people we consider other. I heard this talk a long time ago in this storytelling workshop, and part of it was like kind of a commission to artists, that in all, and you can categorize people in many different ways. Like you have, it could be high school terms, you have your jocks and your geeks and your goths and all these different
Right.
like groupings of people, the
Yeah.
skaters, like the theater kids. And the artist is the kid that can walk in between those groups and goes
Hmm.
and hangs with different groups of people, and maybe that's a lonely path because maybe there is no group that's our own. But
Right.
the artist is it's like a special power. A lot of artists are able to bridge the gaps between these groups and bring us back to what is it that makes us human, and what is it that makes us able to relate to each other. Artists
Right.
have the opportunity to be bridge builders, and that's for sure the kind of person that I want to be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, hey, another friend joining us, Nate Cole. Great story and
Woo.
insight, Joe. All right, so
Thank.
one thing that when I met up with you for that interview, it seems weird to say that when we're in a pandemic.
I know.
That one time we were in person and we didn't have masks on, and masks would have been super weird. Um,
Right.
I I think what was driving me in my questions when I sat down and asked you to press record when I turned the tables on you, um, I think I wanted to know, like, okay, but what's in it for you?
Mm-hmm.
That's my
Are you
question.
asking me that now? Was that the
Yeah,
real question?
yeah.
I thought you were saying like that's what's on mine. I'm like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But that's what was
Oh,
driving me.
right.
I didn't ask it that day, but I really, that's when I was asking all those other questions, is really, I was like, but why are you doing this? But what's in it for you? What do you
Honestly,
consider? How would you answer that today?
so that's a good question because I think unlike a lot of other individuals that I meet, this isn't universally true. I want to headline that, but there are a few folks that I've met who do podcasting and they're intentional about their monetary goals with regards to podcasting. Like they want to get sponsors, they want to have that be their full-time job. Like I think that'd be great. Like that's not something that I would ever turn down, and it's not something I'm not working towards. But for me, I'm fortunate and blessed enough that I do have a day job where I don't have to worry about those things. And I know that that's not true for a lot of people. So I want to recognize my privilege in that situation. I've not always been in that situation. But for me, the reason why I work a 9 to 5 day job and have two kids, and at the end of the day still want to do this, is because I fundamentally want the world in which my kids grow up in to be better than the world I grew up in. And not to say that the world I grew up in was bad, but I think we could always do better. And I'm insanely curious about everybody's stories. I love the blog Humans of New York, and I
Yeah.
love reading just everybody's stories because everybody has an interesting story to tell. And I do not subscribe to the fact where someone's like, "Oh, my story is not interesting." Everybody's story is fascinating and interesting in a very specific way that is unique to them, and I just want to know what it is. And somebody said you're like a collector of stories once. I'm like, yeah, sure, but it's more of like I don't want to collect them to keep them and display them in my shelf. I want to put them out in the world and elevate other stories because I feel like I love the ability to find out what made someone who they are, and then if I can share it and then see how by me sharing it, it impacted someone else and then helped them, then that's all that's in it for me. Is I just want to connect people and make the world a better place. And yeah, call me Miss America if you want, because that's a very like beauty pageant answer, like peace and love. But I don't really care because that's all I want to do. Yeah, yeah, but that's what is in it for me is the ability to share stories, elevate stories, and connect people for change.
Yep, I agree. So does Tyler.
Joe 2020. Wait, no.
Different Joe. Speaking of Joes, there are a lot of Joes in the world right now.
Hmm.
Some pretty famous ones. One just got a
Right,
is president elect. And
right.
also, I had a Joe on the show last Sunday.
Dr. Joe, I saw.
I don't. He's not an actual doctor, but that's his music like project name.
Sure. No, I saw the
And
like
he's
at
great.
Dr.
Yeah, he's great.
I've listened
Um,
to a little bit of his stuff.
did you like?
I did. I really enjoyed it. I'll let you talk though,
Makes
because it's your show.
makes you want to dance. So, okay, are you ready for the pop question portion of the show?
Yes, absolutely. I almost said absolutely like Leslie Knope.
Nice. Have you ever had an embarrassing crush?
Oh, I'm sure I have. Um, yes, actually, this is probably the most embarrassing thing. How many like old school church people are on, or any? 'Cause I'm
You know what?
curious
I
about what
always
those.
assume that people will be watching at some point.
Good call. So maybe I can speak in code a little bit about this. So in high school, like near the end of high school, I would say I was probably 16, not quite 17, 16, that age range. I had a huge crush on. Um, so there was a guy that was the lead like worship singer for a while at the church we grew up in, and he had a sister that was a little bit younger. And I think you know who I'm talking about at this point.
I think I
Like they
do
were brother and
now.
sister. Okay. All right. Cool. 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 So I had a huge crush on her, like a huge crush on her, and so it was just like one of those things where you have like crushes from afar, and you like tell your friends, and you're just like whatever, whatever. Well, I apparently told the wrong friend because all of a sudden, then like she knew, and she just like we'd never spoken, and then one day somebody walked up to her, like who was it? I think it was our youth pastor at the time walked up to her. So I had not told our youth pastor at all. And he just like walked up, like, and we're in like a group of people. And he's just like, hey, by the way, like, da, 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 da. Hey, I know someone who's got a big crush on you. Haha. And she like spun and locked eyes with me and was like, is it Joe Shaw? And I was like, I need to die right now. And then he was like, well, is it Joe? And I was like, hey, ooh. And I did like one of these and
Ooh.
I like walked out. I just like I like Nick New Girl like moon walked out of the room a little bit and was just like, I got a thing over by and just booked it out. And yeah, that was probably the most embarrassing crush because it was just like one of those things where I'm just like, yeah, I got a crush, like, sure, sure, sure. And it's like, you can't trust people with
Oh
information
man,
sometimes. That was a lesson that I learned that day.
that's true. Gosh. I've been corrected. It seems that Dr. Joe is a doctor. He's a dentist. I had no
A
idea,
DDS.
Robert. Also, hey, Robert. And
What's up,
Tenacious
Robert?
is joining us. Where are you tuning in from? If you're just now tuning in, seems like. Oh, and Allison. Allison is hanging out.
Oh,
Thanks
thank you so
everybody.
much
Yeah, thanks
for the
everybody for
kind
tuning
words.
in.
Thanks everybody
Okay.
for hearing about my embarrassing crush. This is
Yeah,
totes,
we do what we
totes
can,
my goats.
Joe. You're like your awkward ooh sound reminded me of Adventure Time in the pilot. That at the very end, the princess like kind of gives him a little peck on the cheek, and he's like, "Ooh, I gotta go." It's so great, so great.
Oh, good times.
Have you ever sung karaoke?
Yes, I have, and I'm trying to think of the most embarrassing one I did. Um, oh, I
Are
do
there
remember where
multiple?
it was. Oh yeah, like I'm a huge karaoke fan. And usually the people I'm with don't want to do it, and I don't know if that's like says more about
I'm
them or more
terrified of
about me.
karaoke,
Oh well, so I
personally.
feel like I feel like it's one of the opportunities where you can really just go all out. I remember I sang, oh, what was it? I sang a hip hop song, and I was in a room full of like churchy people. It was not Lil
Was it Lady
Jon.
Gaga?
No, no,
Poker
no, no, no.
face.
This was I did sing Ice Ice Baby in a group, and it was not great. Like I didn't realize how many like rando words are in there, and so I just like bailed out.
Oh,
But I
yeah.
remember, oh, no, 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 it wasn't church. I sang a B.O.B. song. It was that airplane song. The like what is it? Oh, in like airplanes in the night sky, like
Oh,
shooting
yeah.
stars. That one. So I sang that, and it was at my sister-in-law's birthday party, and she was like in 8th grade. So it was at the moment where it was like the zenith of uncool. But luckily, she had enough like dorky friends that they thought it was like funny and cool. So it like worked, but it didn't work. So,
Oh.
but I enjoy it. It's fun.
If I were ever in a situation where like I'm either on a date or I'm around someone that I like, karaoke is not my go-to. That is not a thing that I
Mm.
want to do to try to impress anybody because it's just so
Oh,
like,
it's not for impressing.
like,
Yeah, no, not at all.
ooh,
Mm-mm. It's
it's
straight up just for like a fun, crazy thing to do if you've had
yeah.
drinks or if other people have had drinks and you're the one stone cold sober.
That's
Either way, it's fun.
true. That's true. Or if everyone else has had a lot to drink, you should challenge them to foosball. That's what I did in college. I wasn't drinking in
That
college.
is smart.
I
I
was
love
like the
foosball.
best at foosball because everyone else was smashed. It was
Be
great.
like, hey, we should do this tournament at midnight and I'll give everybody drinks.
Yeah. Shots on me. This is an obvious. Have you ever been in a play,
Oh, no, not at all. I absolutely hate theater. Yes,
Mr.
of course I
Theater
have. I'm
Guy?
like, yeah, yeah,
What
yeah,
is
yeah.
the best theater experience you've ever had? It could be you as an actor,
Mm.
you as playing another part, production, whatever. What's been the best
I'll give
experience for you?
So I'll give two. So as an
Okay.
actor, the most fun I ever had is I see Tyler Watson's actually in the stream, so I'll give him a shout
Yes.
out. He's one of my really
Tyler.
best dear friends, and he came to watch you live in Austin
Oh,
because
at
we were all
a
hanging out
Swerva
at the bachelor party. Yeah, 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 yeah,
when y'all
yeah.
almost got kicked out. Thanks, guys.
Oh, that was crazy, 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 crazy.
Y'all almost
Oh, we
got me kicked
didn't.
out. No, I'm kidding.
Oh no, really?
No, I'm kidding.
Oh, okay, good. I
But
was
I
like,
did
oh
kind
no.
of like at one point like put a little distance because I was like,
Oh, that's fine. That's totally fine. We
yeah,
were
they didn't
trying to distance
pay.
ourselves.
I loosely know these guys. It was my
We were
first
trying
time
to
in
distance
Swerva.
ourselves.
Okay.
Sure. We didn't want to like yeah, we didn't want to be the reason you got kicked out. No, no, no. But
Thanks, Tyler.
so my freshman year my freshman year we did The Foreigner which is a comedy play and I Tyler was in it as well and so he and I my favorite story about this is like he and I did the show and that's where we became like really great best friends was because of that and we had a lot of scenes together and stuff and then I was working in the office as an administrative assistant as part of like a work study program so I had to archive a lot of these like old VHS like video camera tapes they had just so they had them on digital copy and so I got The Foreigner and I made a copy for myself and then Tyler came and visited me once. I was like, we should watch this. And we had a couple cocktails as we were watching it. And it was bad. Like I don't remember it being that bad. I remember it being amazing. And we were just like for me, I was like, why am I doing these weird things with my hands? And Tyler's like, why do I talk like that? And we were just, it was great, great fun. So that was my favorite, like end to end. But like in addition, that's not acting, I directed a ghost story or a ghost play called The Woman in Black, which is now a movie featuring Daniel Radcliffe. And I
Hmm.
did that for my senior capstone class. You had to direct a play as your final thing. So I graduated with two other seniors that year. We had a small class, and so I chose that play because it used only two actors and then two or three tech people. And so what it is, the premise of it is this old man had a horrible experience with a ghost when he was young and he wrote it down and he paid an actor to help him like recreate it so he could exorcise his demons. That's like the gist of it. But it's been on London's West End for years because the book is actually required reading for British, like the equivalent of junior high there.
Gotcha.
So I saw it when I was in London and I loved it and wanted to do it. So I did it and it was super terrifying. It was the first time like most people ever been terrified by actual stage play. And it's just a little bit of creative lighting and like some jump effects. But I put like coverings over the exit sign, so there was no glow. So when the lights went off, it was pitch black, which never happens in theater. We actually had to get like several extra like safety protocols in place because we knew we were like technically doing stuff that we shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
Um, but it was great, and like to this day, I've heard like students graduate after the fact where like the head of the theater department still points to that show as like this is an example of like a well done senior directed one act play and
Yes.
like
Yes.
all this stuff. So I feel like I left a legacy a little bit, and so those are the
There you
two like most
go.
fun experiences. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have a question for me?
Yes, I do. Let me pull it up. Okay, so I want to know who are some of your old school musical influences that you try to channel in some of your songs? As an example, I'll give you an example. I love Billie Holiday, Frank Sinatra, and Little Walter. Who are the specific influences you have, and then how do they manifest in your music?
I don't know how to answer that question. So, a, f- a few years ago, I was listening to, I guess, like some old school Christian music because I grew up listening to Christian music. I was always allowed to listen to. So, that was a lot of like Amy Graham, Michael W. Smith, Point of Grace. I could go on and on. But my favorite
Rapping Carmen.
song was a Chris Rice song uh, called Still Making Me Holy, maybe, or just called Holy. And I think that I liked it because the chorus uses the word stupid, and I was not allowed to use that word in normal everyday language. So that was like a real, like, stick it to the man type, rebellion to,
Of
like, really
course.
love this Chris Rice song, which is kind of funny.
Right.
So, yeah, it was, I don't know, but he is what I would say if I just heard him, like, at a bar. He's a singer songwriter, like a guy in a guitar, and he could play those songs acoustically or like full band, but I picture him as like an acoustic guy. And then a few years
Sure.
ago, that's like pretty solidly where I sat, is in the acoustic vein. And I was like, wow, I am basically a songwriter, and I'm basically, that is the music, the kind of music I ended up playing, at least right now. And so that was
Right.
really interesting to realize, because I thought that I had kind of grown out of this. I don't really listen to Christian music today. Like, if I'm in church,
Yeah.
like I'm singing and I'm listening and I know church songs, but like I don't listen
Sure.
to Christian radio per se. And
Right.
so I thought I'd kind of stepped away from that. And then I was like, maybe I haven't. Maybe I'm just, still a Chris Rice fan at heart. And I grew up and that influenced me to this day. Maybe.
I love that. I love it. That's
Um,
awesome.
Yeah, we have a lot of comments coming in. What does everyone say? Joanna
Ooh.
was in a play in 10th grade. She played two different characters.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
oh yeah, David was in a play. Yeah, lots of
Shepherd. Right on.
lots of childhood experiences coming to light here. And then I would say that my living in Austin has affected my music the most.
Sure.
And because it's such a huge circle of creatives that live here, it's not too difficult to find it. It's not difficult, but it took me a long time still, so it's like an oxymoron kind of, to find other people that inspire you creatively, that push you forward, and that you can bounce ideas off of and be inspired. So it's been, there
Yeah.
are songwriters here in town that have really affected me too. I would say probably David Ramirez and, um, I guess Grace Bettis too. I listen to a lot of her music, and
Mm,
or I
yeah.
love watching her live, and
Sure.
I feel like she's, the way that she puts words into a melody, um, is unique. Like, I don't hear people like laying words, like the way that her words flow in the rhythm of the song is very different to me, and I like it. And so it's pushed me
Yeah.
out of my comfort zone of status quo of the way that I always lay words into melodies. And so I would say my last couple of songs, my newer songs, have definitely been David Bazan of Pedro the Lion. Like, one of my most recent
Mm,
songs has been inspired by the way that he like gets pretty vulnerable in his lyrics. And he's kind of an indie rock guy, And so some of my rhythms have been changing and even my chord progressions. So I
Yeah.
definitely see how what I listen to a lot definitely affects and inspires me to push my music in a different direction when I'm writing.
Yeah. You were talking about this, and all I could think of is like some of the things that I'm really drawn to. Like I love a lot of Bastille from a lyrical perspective. Like Weight of Living and Good Grief are some of my favorite songs. But the musical stylings that like I would love to have like the lyrical renditions of Bastille into like a Mumford and Son sounding song. Like if I could mash those two, that would be fantastic because I think the lyrics in the is wonderful, and I love those and I'm drawn to those. But then you have like the chord progressions that you're talking about and having something that you're really drawn to that you kind of can't get out of your head. I hear that in stuff like Mumford and Sons Pedro the Lion as well, like you were talking about, and it's just fantastic. You were just like getting me like ranting and rambling and raving about music. So
Yeah.
oh,
Um yeah.
I see people commenting real quick. I see people commenting about Christian music. So I will just quick plug if you're here to listen to, or obviously you're here to listen to Natalie because this is her show and you're here. If you're here and you are interested about one of the podcasts I do after the Encore, it's Long Form Career Music Podcast, Volume 4 that just released a couple weeks ago, features all Christian bands. So I've got Davey Basinger from Bleach, Jason Dunn of Hawk Nelson, Adam McLeod from Earthsuit, and Owen Thomas from the Elms. So if any of those are interesting groups that you used to or currently listen to, you should go check them out because they're all super, super dope. That's my like 5 second plug.
Cool. That was a good 5 second plug.
Thanks.
You have another question, or shall I move on to the pop questions for
Ooh,
me to answer?
I want to know the pop questions for you because I put a lot of thought and effort into that one question, and that was all I did.
Okay. Have I ever gotten a black eye? No, I don't think I have. I have gotten hit in the face with like a sports ball. So like a basketball. I've been hit in the face with
Like
a
the Brady
basketball.
Bunch?
I've been hit in the face with a frisbee from disc golf. Or I
Oh,
guess we played. No,
oh
it was
my.
ultimate frisbee, and I just like
Ah.
had a moment where and then I just like turned into it, and that was, I think I was on the ground. It was pretty painful. I'm
Oh.
trying to think of anything else. I guess I have actually. Was it Nate? I just told someone this the other day. I think it might have been Nate because because
Mm.
of the bread falling, which is amazing, Nate. I haven't watched that
Oh.
yet, but I plan on it. Um, there was this moment. I worked at this Christian camp for like 7 summers. It's part of what got me down here to Austin. And one summer we were filming the rules video because that was like the media team. It was like our initiation into the media team. Is we had to learn how to use Pro Tools and all, or not Pro Tools, but whatever editing software we were using. We had to learn how to use that, how to film, how to put everything together to make like the hype videos
Mhm.
for camp. So we had to film the rules videos. And so I was acting in one of those rules videos. And all of the videos were terrible in hindsight, and I do have a copy. I do own a copy of this video.
Ooh, exciting.
And it was like the dress modestly rule. And we
Oh.
decided to swap the roles and have like a dude dressing really immodestly, and then I was the unsuspecting girl who like turned around, and I was supposed to turn around and scream. And I was fake on the phone, and I turn around and I scream, and I turn again to run, but I was like on like sand on top of concrete, and I
Oh
just
no.
slipped and just face planted on camera with braces, and my head like bounced off the concrete. And it was intense, and I don't know how my braces did not go through my face. They did
I'm
not. I
glad.
was like, thank you, God. I had like one
Right.
little scrape. I don't know how that's all I had from that. It was a it was flat on the ground. Like my head, it definitely bounced. We replayed it in like slow motion,
Of
like really
course.
dragged that one out. Every like first day of camp, we watched that video. I was like, took one for the team,
There's you leaving your legacy, right?
leaving pieces of my mouth on the ground. near Lake Travis for anyone who wants to go find and excavate that. Yeah, the end.
Good
Okay,
times.
yes, very memorable times. Have I ever won the giant prize at a carnival game? No, and I'm still mad about it. It's like kind of a goal, like a secret goal, but I don't really go to carnivals, so it's like never gonna happen.
Sure.
Have I ever played
It's
Pokemon?
all a game.
Yes.
You have played
I
Pokemon.
have. Well, I have never played like Pokemon Go or like actual Pokemon games on like whatever the current game system is. But like when
Hmm.
Pokemon was like first coming
Like the
out,
card?
no, we didn't. No, like
Oh,
me and my brothers and sisters would like go outside and role play. We would just pretend. Like we used this thing called our
okay.
imagination, and we like went outside. There was like sunlight and stuff, and like we picked like
Sure.
grass. It was like, yeah, we are playing outside and we are doing this, and my Pokemon is leveling
I
up,
love that.
and
That's fantastic.
that was a thing that I
I
did when
never
I was a
got into
kid.
Pokemon at all. Not didn't. My parents actually straight up. That was the first time my parents told me. They said, "This is a fad. This is what a fad is. We're not going to let you like get dug into it." This is post Power Rangers, post Pogs, post like everything else they did let me get into. So perhaps this was just the last like straw, and they're like, "No, it's been too many fads. We're done. We're done helping you invest in these things. No, just
That's
no."
funny.
Which is fine. I
My
appreciate it.
parents at first were like, "No, this is demonic. You can't do this."
Of
And
of course, of course.
yeah, and but then this thing happened where my mom figured out that come 3:30 every day, all of the chores are done. She was like, "Oh, okay, I guess you can watch this show." So she like she learned how to like utilize like a thing that we loved to get all of the stuff done in the house and without having to
That
like
is
fight us to get stuff done.
right. Love that.
Joanna shared a story when you got hit in the face with a basketball. High school.
Ooh.
At a high school game when you were 6. Okay, I was like, when you were in high school,
I
yikes.
know. I was like, whoa, super smart.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't
Errant path.
disbelieve
Ooh.
it, Joanna, if you were in high school at
Yeah.
6, but you're a pretty smart lady. Awesome. Was that 3? That was probably 3. Yeah, we'll stop there.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, you requested a song. Normally, if you're just tuning in and you have no idea what this is, I call it 20 at 10, where I take about 20 minutes and interview a guest. I ask some weird questions from this board game I have, and I let them ask me a question or two. And then I always close it out with a song. And I usually let my guests request a song, and Joe requested a song called Dreamwalker. So I'm going to play Dreamwalker at the end. Um, Nice, Joanna. Joanna graduated high school in 3 years. That's amazing. So Joe, my question for you is: do you want me to keep you on the screen, or do you want to like? I don't mind because
I
like
want to
you'll see
be
the edges of my.
sure.
You want to stay on the
You
screen?
can keep me on. Yeah,
Okay.
sure. I'll just be rocking out.
Some people get a little camera shy.
Pff.
Oh gosh. Okay, so this
I
is
only get camera shy if my hair is weird.
Oh, okay. Well, this I really cannot move with all of this gear in here. So if you hear like a clash, a clang, it's a very precarious situation happening right here. A thing I never tried, words I never prayed, but you tried to fly. I just watched you afraid, 'cause I didn't know how to love. All of your hope turned into dust. I couldn't hear your cries for help, so I moved on. Dreamwalker, haunting me in my sleep. All I have to offer is a heart empty, things I never said. start to choke me, dream walker. Won't you set me free? A year of my life, hundreds of days, I trusted your eyes, drifting in the haze. You didn't know how to love. All of my hopes turned into dust. My cries for truth fell on deaf ears, so I moved on. Dream walker, haunting me in my sleep. All I have to offer is a heart empty, things I never said start to choke me, dream walker. Won't you set me free? All these memories, I'll pray for relief. I'll hope for the day I'll know when to stay and when to leave. Dream walker, haunting me in my sleep. All I have to offer is a heart empty, things I never said start to choke me, dream walker. Won't you set me free?
Woo!
Thanks.
I was trying to be like super, super, super loud as the live person here, but I also have sleeping kiddos, so I was trying to be
That's
like
true.
balance that line. So,
Well,
but
thanks.
I still love that song. So good.
Thanks so
Still
much.
my favorite. So
Yeah, well, thank you for requesting it, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Joanna, Kent, David, who else is still here? Allison was here for a minute. Yeah, thank you everyone for hanging out. If you are tuning in, well, if you're tuning in, you're not on Instagram Live right now because we're not on Instagram Live. So I'm trying this out, and I'm trying to do this weekly, maybe Sundays. We'll see what my future guests, think about it, but I'm hoping that it's better audio and a better experience for you. So feel free to leave a comment. Thanks, Don. And let me know what you think about it, or if you have a suggestion on additional content you want to see in this time. And Joe, is there anything else that you want to plug before we go?
sure. So I just want to let everybody know, if you want to follow Detox Podcast for Culture and Conversations, every Monday new episodes. I'm at Detox. It's DTALKS. It's like TED Talks, but just D. Podcast on all social platforms. And then for After the Encore, which is a seasonal podcast every 4 to 6 months, new seasons, that is at After the Encore Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. And then Twitter, it's at AT Encore podcast. But really, you can get both podcasts wherever you subscribe, and go check it out. There's lots of great people, and I'm super excited for you to hear them.
Awesome. I think detox is supposed to sound like detox, right? That's the whole
It
point.
is, right. Yeah, the whole point is, so just like really, really quick. So detox, the D stands for dad, and talks is for this dad is talking to other people to get you, the listener, to detox from life and get a window into how other people live their lives. So I want people to come detox with detox. So that's like, it's like a play on it. But yeah, it works sometimes. I like it. But
Awesome. Also, Dawn, you mentioned you want to hear more music. I'm playing a live stream show tomorrow at 6 p.m. Central Time. I believe that's 7 p.m.
mhm.
Eastern Time with Grace Morrison on Facebook Live. And I believe it's from Grace Morrison's Facebook page. It might also be from mine, but I do have the event posted on my Facebook page, so check it out. And would love to have you tune in. Joe, thank you so much for being my guest on 20 at 10. This is episode 153.
Woo!
And I hope you have a wonderful
I feel
night.
special.
And I'm wishing you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for letting me be here. And thank you to everybody for tuning in.
Awesome. Y'all have a good night.